right, welcome in here to the DMV Zone. I'm Marina Morocco. Let's talk about everything that we've got going on here in the zone. Your top 3 at 3 at this hour. As we're talking about just everything that we talked about off the top, congressional district maps and so much more. Let's get to our top story of the day right now. And hopefully somebody can bring me an iPad here so I can get filled in on all things that we want. Let's pull up some of this video here for a second so that we can get into the story of the day. Because in an hour, the Virginia General Assembly will meet for a special session that could redraw the state's congressional districts for the 2026 midterm election. The Commonwealth is the latest in a series of states to dive into the control of Congress. This attempt could swing as many as 3 of the state's 11 congressional seats from Republicans to Democrats. Right now, Virginia has 6 Democratic members of Congress, 5 Republicans. Joining us to break down what this could mean for your next trip to the polls, GMU Shar School professor and former Virginia State Delegate David Ramadan joining us here. David, good to see you. This is a huge conversation.
You. Thanks for having me, Marina.
Absolutely, that is happening across the country, not just in Virginia. And I know we talk about it, and it seems like this could be something that happens quickly. It's not going to be easy. What exactly would this entail?
It's not easy. It's not quickly either. In Virginia, we have currently the Constitution of Virginia requires that redistricting takes place via an independent commission. That was voted on a few years ago by the General Assembly and then voted on by the people. What is happening today in Richmond, or what will be happening in an hour in Richmond, is that the majority in Richmond, the Democrats, are going to propose a new constitutional amendment. In order for us to pass a constitutional amendment in Virginia, it has to pass the General Assembly, then an election has to take place, and then it has to pass the General Assembly again, and then it goes as a referendum for the people. So the attempt today is to pass this constitutional amendment before Tuesday's election. Then there will be an election. Then we will go back, General Assembly will go back to the usual session, to the normal session of 2026 in January. They will pass it again, and the Democrats have the majority in the House and the Senate, slim majority, but they do have it. Then it will go to the people to vote on it, to take away the commission, therefore, so that the General Assembly can redraw and redistrict the congressional districts of Virginia in the next session and change probably the representation. Today, Virginia is represented by 11 members in Congress. 6 are Democrats and 5 are Republicans. If this passes the General Assembly, and then if the people of Virginia, all of us will have to vote on it on the ballot sometime early next year. If it passes the majority of people of Virginia, then these districts could be redrawn, and then it's likely that the Democrats will be able to pick up 2 or 3 more seats out of the 11 seats represented in Congress.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, David, because of Virginia, there's been this thought, at least nationally, right, that Virginia, the Commonwealth, is a purple state, so to speak. Now, Trump didn't win the state. However, it has swung at times Republican. With this happening in the legislature, it almost would be solidly blue, with the exception of the potential, of course, for the executive to be Republican.
No, I mean there will still be some representation and few members of Congress that will come from Southwest Virginia.
Right, but you've got 11 congressional districts. If you pick up 6 plus 3, that's 9.
That's 9. It's likely going to be 8 or 9 out of the 11 will be solidly blue. That is absolutely true when this goes through.
What does that look like for the national conversation regarding the Commonwealth if this were to happen?
Democrats will add 2 or 3 more seats in Congress for the 2026 election so that they could have the majority in Congress and then draw a balance to President Trump in office. This all started with Texas. I mean, look, gerrymandering has been an issue we've all been dealing with for decades, right? And however, we used to gerrymander, America used to gerrymander and redistrict after every census, not mid-decade. Texas decided on the behest of President Trump that they want to prevent Democrats from gaining seats in the 2026 election. So they decided to go for a redistricting session mid-decade so that they can have less losses to Democrats in 2026. of course, Democrats were not going to sit back. They decided to fight back and go into states where they can pick up seats. And in response to Texas and Carolina, now we're seeing Virginia and possibly California and possibly Pennsylvania picking up Democratic seats.
Huge conversation. To your point, that census from 2020, the next year is when they evaluate this, and it's 2025, and here we are talking about redistricting. An odd conversation, but it seems as though a new time in politics here for us in the States. Regardless, David, we appreciate your insight.
Always good to be back with you. Thanks for having me.
Let's move on to topic number 2 here, where President Trump is in Japan today, part of a nearly week-long Asian tour focused on tariffs and trade. Japan, the second stop on his 3-country Asian trip. Trade will be among several topics discussed with the Japanese, but looming over the whole trip, negotiations with China. Joining us to talk more about the impact of this trip, Senior Fellow with National Security Institute, Andy Kaiser. Andy, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Let's talk about this. That first stop there in Malaysia, it seems as though the president touting it a success. He says he's the president of peace. How much did he really broker there?
Well, you know, there's 2 components that are super important here. I think all the energy will be around the China relationship and what we can do on rare earths. So the Chinese have squeezed out a key component of everything from the phone in your pocket to the F-35 in the sky. And this is a very serious economic sort of supply chain warfare the Chinese are conducting. So I think that's job 1 in Asia. And then probably the second most important meeting he'll have is with our new Japanese, the new Prime Minister of Japan, who he'll be meeting with for the first time there. And the Japanese are an important player in artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, and a key check and counter to China in the region as well. They changed their constitution to be more robust on the defense side, which was very welcome in Washington. So they're increasingly more willing to challenge Chinese hegemony in the region, which is very welcome and will be a huge subject of the conversations, I'm sure.
And how close are they to striking the so-called, the president calling it a successful transaction with China, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying that there's framework that they can get this done while he's over in Asia, that being the President Trump. Is there truth to what the administration is saying?
I think it's likely. I mean, these are the 2 most important economic powers in the world. President Trump is in office for 4 years. This is year 1, right? So they both do have an interest in cooling these temperatures and coming away from this regional meeting here with a win for both sides. So I'd be surprised if at least a framework isn't announced. As you know, and the viewers know, the devil's always in the details around these. But both sides absolutely have an interest in reducing those temperatures, improving their own economies. The Chinese economy has struggled post-COVID. The U.S. economy looking to come out of high inflation levels and kind of hit the ground running. And I know President Trump wants nothing more than that.
All right. And something else the president said on Air Force One there, he'd be willing to meet with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, saying that he would even potentially extend his trip, which is set to wrap up on Thursday. Andy, we know how much time these meetings take to take place. Any shot that is really a possibility?
That's a pretty quick turn, but this administration is unique and has found rapid success in other areas quickly. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. It's obviously a very pressing issue and series of topics that, again, they do want to make progress on. And this president has pulled a rabbit out of the hat before, though, you know, like the deal in the Middle East, for example, is not totally concluded until there's a lot of work to go there, but obviously a pretty significant development and a win thus far.
I think what you're saying is truly anything can happen. We've seen that before. Thank you so much, Andy. We'll see what happens there in Asia. We appreciate it. Let's move on here. Back at home, a new body cam video showing Baltimore County police officers reacting after a gun scare at a high school. Turned out to be a bag of Doritos chips. Last week, AI gun detectors at the school mistakenly determined a student had a weapon. This is that body cam footage showing those officers stopping the student there, searching him, and they too were stunned to find out that AI had flagged a bag of Doritos as a gun. Now Baltimore County leaders are calling for a review of that system. Let's bring in safety expert Ken Trump here to talk about these programs. A lot of people, we talk about school shootings, they're excited, if you will, to talk about the opportunity of AI being another safeguard. But here we see it's not foolproof.
It's not all ready for prime time at best. The devil's in the details of implementation, right? Once you get this stuff, school safety and security is not a plug-and-play sport. So you get the technology. It's often sold to school districts with a lot of marketing promises that don't always translate perfectly when they actually have to implement it. And you have a tragic situation here. I mean, this is extremely traumatizing for a kid to go through this stuff, and school officials need to look into the weeds and think this thing through and do some critical thinking about how would this stuff really work, not just buy it to do shiny objects in them, as we call it, and kind of appease the parents to say, see, we're doing something.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, obviously this kid had to live through something that he likely would not have had to, and the truth is he was doing absolutely nothing wrong, but neither were the officers. They were going based off of the information that they had. And to that point, you instruct on this and you talk to school districts about safety. Is this the new wave where school districts are looking to add to AI to what they already have as mechanisms in place?
Well, the school security industry is marketing on steroids. It's fueled in a lot of cases by private equity and influenced by lobbyists. So money's being shaken loose at state legislatures to fund this type of stuff. And schools are, in some cases, are looking at, hey, here's some free money. Let's get this, not thinking about how they're going to have to sustain the cost or how they have to implement it. We focus on the fundamentals, first of all, is what we teach. Is the first and best line of defense is a well-trained, highly alert staff and student body. And the number one way you find out about weapons, plots, and kids that are going to cause harm to themselves and others is when a kid comes forward and tells an adult that they trust. So we're focusing on human factors. Let the technology kind of develop and get ready for prime time. But it's not always what it's marketed to be. We've got one school earlier this year that had AI cameras in place in the school and had a school shooting. And for whatever reason that wasn't detected, now we have this in place and a bag of Doritos is detected. So a lot of glitches, a lot of things to be filled in. Not perfect and certainly not always as marketed.
Must be reevaluated. Ken, always a pleasure speaking with you, and certainly a story here that turned out for the best but could have been far worse. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.